Yes.
Perfect. Good.
So many sessions and
Right.
still haven't done it. Okay, great. Now we're live also for those watching. Sorry. So you missed the intro, but we're gonna start now and Seb is gonna talk you through it.
Yeah. Thanks, Camila and Yasmin for your great help, and for WOMEX for having us here. Hello, everyone here in our conference session. Really, thanks for being here with us for record labels in a changing world. And yeah, you know, we all know it all too well, but as a whole cultural sector and scene has been hit, everybody experiences the negative effects in different ways. And it now also has an effect on how music and albums are produced since March, and also how labels plan or release their output, either digitally or on physical. In this session, we will discuss the effects of the COVID crisis, which are negative, as well as some positive light points as well, as these are times of change, and everybody in the label scene needs to adapt one way or another, depending on their business model, expectations, and finances. So I would maybe like to show like the slide that we have, the second slide, with a bit of like all the topics that we're going to talk about. So, oh yeah, it's actually the one before. That would be great. Yeah. So we have Cornelia Benicevic here from Ladies on Records, me myself from Rebel Up, and then Louis Robinson from Mais Discos. And the main themes today are like about running a label during this pandemic, releases and artistic output, and also ideas about that, and also female-owned labels, emancipation and inspiration. For instance, Cornelia is going to talk after me. She's going to talk about the label and social activism and female issues, also the effect of the pandemic on her research and record digging, which is like analog archives versus digital archives. Me myself, I'm just going to delve into my own personal experience of actions of social activism during the pandemic, and community projects and releases that I'm doing and still setting up. And Louis is gonna talk about turning a negative into a positive, opportunities in a pandemic. So yeah, I think it's gonna be quite a heavy, full information hour with all those things. And yeah, in that sense, it's gonna be quite something. So let me just get my things as well. To I'm seeing here if I can maybe viewing options, my Zoom. The, Let me see. I just have to see if my Zoom ratio that I can get my quotes on there. Let me see. All right. So I let me see. Okay, I got it. So yeah, we're gonna put a big focus on new ways and ideas to release and promote music, new practices, as well as a focus on social activism, emancipation, and the sustainability of our international music scene as well. Um, I am Sebastian Basler from Brussels, Belgium, and I run the Rebel Up Records label. I mean, in 2007, we started Rebel Up as a DJ collective and non-profit organization with monthly concerts and party nights in Amsterdam and Brussels. And in the first 5 years, the goal was to donate the profits of our nights to small NGOs doing intercultural and community work somewhere in the world. Yeah, so far we've been going strong in the last 13 years, slowly building up our organization step by step. And 2 years ago, in 2018, I started the Rebel Up record label, which was always something I wished to do since early on, with the idea to share the music that we played on our parties and also new albums of unknown artists via our label, and linking it to grassroots networks and also our own scene. So maybe more than like a classic label, doing a lot of PNR and stuff. Actually, that's not really the goal of Rebel Up. We are actually more like a platform that puts focus on releasing music from contemporary global artists from the diaspora, who cannot easily be placed within the, let's say, the current world music setup. And it can be from traditional music to jazz to electronic music, or music that is just very hard to define as a style. So in a way, our label as a platform, it's more like an open home to migrant, indigenous, and mixed identity artists. On our roster, we have artists from countries such as Ghana, Mexico, Iraq, Tunisia, Morocco, Israel, also the MENA region, Benin, Angola, Portugal, Brazil, Bolivia, Peru, Congo, Senegal, the Gambia, Burkina Faso, and of course also Netherlands and Belgium, as well as a lot of artists from the multicultural Brussels scene, and it keeps on growing. So like this sort of patchwork that we have, being like working a lot with the diaspora and sort of being more a platform than a big P&R company, an A&R. We are actually, it doesn't give our label a fixed identity or a repeated pattern of music selection and output, which in turn makes it hard for the written press to write about our releases. I guess not being in a certain niche creates a barrier for media, since they often expect specified music styles and consistency from a label, which is not really what we're doing. um, Another important aspect is that Rebel Up does a lot of collaborations with other labels and organizations to make albums happen, sharing the cost, the burden, and the promotion, as it's also never really been in the idea of running my label as an ivory tower to keep the power concentrated to my own side. I rather actually prefer to share the responsibilities and growing together, as unity is strength, and it's way more fun for sure as well to do it together, I feel. So yeah, also in the first year, I started the project with musicians from Iraq who had arrived as refugees in Brussels. And this project became known as Babylon Trio, which refers to their city of Baghdad. If you can show the picture, which is picture number 3. Yeah, and it's like they play Iraqi electronic music linked to the rather unknown Al Mazufa electronic shobi rave music style that is played with synthesizers and often digital percussion. It was really important to support them to produce their physical album and making them perform for mixed Arabic and Belgian crowds. And their music is very hugely important to the refugee community of Syrians and Iraqis here in Belgium. As also at live shows, Iraqi and Syrian people felt like very included and always took like the center stage on the dance floor with like route dance of shobi and dabka dances, which was also very interesting to see that on the local level, sort of showing Belgians or other international people who didn't know how to dance those dances to dance together. So it became sort of a very reactionary movement in the times also that in Belgium right-wing political parties were a lot focusing on the migration debates, since Brussels is sort of one of the key turning points of migrants heading on the way to England or arriving here. So it became, I mean, at least with our nights and also with those shows of Babylon Trio, I really wanted to kind of bring the Arabic communities or the refugees together with like the local communities here in Brussels, you know. Then also Moroccan Brass was a project I did with Brussels organization METIX, which is the picture you see now. And this was like together with Brussels migrant musicians from Morocco and Benin, together with jazz musicians, which was led by the jazz musician Luc Michel. And it was like music style. It was like Gnawa meeting Benin, voodoo percussion, and Belgian fanfare jazz. And this is all like done by the project METIX, which is a local Brussels project that works mostly with musicians from other backgrounds, either arriving here as immigrants or born here. And it's a project that is still going on. They are doing a lot of interesting things, and yeah, it's also one of the interesting things happening here in Brussels on that sense of let's say making a bridge between jazz and let's say global music styles. So yeah, in these past 2.5 years already, we already released a total of 22 albums, EPs, and singles. And actually, to me, it felt really like running a marathon, as if it's like as if it's like the 1,000 meters. You know, it's super ambitious, and for sure, me just being very restless, I think, and just wanting to do things. So when the COVID crisis came, it initially gave me a slowed down moment to reflect on the general direction and motivation of the label, sort of thinking what next, how and why. questions for which we don't always have the time to reflect on in our busy schedules, but that now came with a sudden stop. I really embraced it, and though it also comes with the ghost of insecurity and doubt that many of us still battle with, and myself included, it is actually time to make sense of it and give our goals and ideas a place from where we can build again to the future, or at least in a more sustainable way, and perhaps more in a local crowdsourced way as well. So yeah, around May, in many places in the world, and especially through the internet, social activism and fundraisers were on the rise, and people started to take up this torch. And also that was like also the moment that I really dived into some new projects energized by this social activism all around the world. And I want to continue with the first thing that I started doing in May and June, which is the SOS Amazonia fundraiser action. It can be like the next picture. And that fundraiser action was actually started by Diego Hernandez of the Echo label and collective, and also of Remezcla, who is based in Berlin, and also of Sami Ben Rejeb of Analog Africa, to help the population in Iquitos in the Peruvian Amazon, as they were in serious need of medical help and supplies to battle the COVID crisis in the city and the region. Also, like the two Sanchez brothers of the iconic cumbia band Los Wemblers de Iquitos had died of COVID. Also, I think Los Wemblers, they played a showcase last year in Finland, so that was actually one of their last gigs that they played, at least in the original setup of the band. And then also soon afterwards, band leader Raúl Llerena of Ranil y su Conjunto Tropical, which was released on Analog Africa, also passed away due to COVID. So there was like a big fundraiser done to collect money for the funerals of those three musicians. And I was part of the fundraiser with my label next to Analog Africa, Dengue Dengue Dengue, Enchufada, Echo, Names You Can Trust, On the Corner with Pete, Shika Shika, Barbes Records, also DJ Coco Maria, and the amazing Sounds and Color blog. So in the end, in total, 11,000 euros was collected and donated to Medical Help NGO, which is like a Christian organization that helped importing medical devices for the hospitals, and then also to the families of the Sanchez brothers and the Llerena for the funerals of the musicians. And it's like this kind of projects that really make me thinking, okay, this is the moment that when governments are not doing anything, and when there is no funding or subsidy or stuff happening, it's all actually up to the people worldwide to step in, and to be part of this movement. In August, then I helped promote a fundraiser event in Brussels with musicians and DJ friends for the victims of the bomb blast in Beirut, where we also raised nearly 7,000 euros over the course of 2 months. I think the fundraiser is still going on. I can maybe share that link later on in case people want to check that out. It's like a Lebanese-Belgian action that sends equipment and supplies, and also money to Lebanon, since otherwise you cannot really donate money directly to Lebanon, as there are still like sort of embargoes on there, which is very odd. So it has to be often done with Lebanese NGOs, which is, I think, anyway the better way, because they work on the ground. So. And then also in early September was the launch of another solidarity action that I had been working on for quite some time already. I think since June, but it took quite a while, as it was a compilation for the worldwide Black Lives Matter movement, but with African, Afro-European, Afro-Latino, and Caribbean artists, with the title African Diaspora, Electronic Diaspora. If you could show the next picture, yeah, that's like the cover, which was made by a Senegalese friend of mine. And the aim of this compilation was to raise funds for various international NGOs, anti-racism advocacy groups, and organizations of Black Initiative, with like all 100% of the proceedings to be donated to these organizations. So we have a whole list on the Bandcamp where it's released with all those organizations, all listed up per country, some who work more internationally, some who work more local. But I think it's very important to give a wide scope of that, so that there's different ways that the money can flow to, whether it's for local initiatives, whether it's for international things. And yeah. So the the thing is also that like the artists donated their tracks actually for free as a collaboration between Rebel Up, the artists themselves, and international labels like Niege Niege Tapes, Sirfe, Bongo Joe Records, SD-Ban Records, Galietes Calientes, The Blanc Manioc, Indigenous Underground, Strut Records, Air Conditioning, and Thousand Hertz Records. And on this compilation, we brought together mostly electronic African or Afro-descendant artists from the worldwide diaspora and artists based in their homelands, from motherland Africa to Latin America to the Caribbean and back to Europe. So it kind of, in a way, maybe lacks the American angle, at least from the United States. But I also feel it's perhaps a different context since a worldwide issue is also something that is now coming up with the images that we see in Colombia, in Nigeria, with police violence and state corruption, at least, or suppression of Afro minorities. And yeah, I felt it was very important to show it on a global level as well, to show that things are not limited just to one country, but it's actually a worldwide phenomenon that we need to battle on. And what better way to do it than like with music. So it's a vibrant combination on the compilation of contemporary sounds and with the aim of showcase current talent of artists, labels, and producers, and with the Black Lives Matter and art serving as a fundraiser. It's only on Bandcamp though to maximize the donations, not on any other streaming platform. So yeah, so far we have collected around €1,000, and it's still going on, which I think is not bad for just a digital compilation that is only for sale on one platform, which is Bandcamp. But it's as it's still rolling forward, pushed by those who buy and share it. So if you are a journalist, radio host, or editor, or anyway, or please get in touch with me for a press pack via email or a virtual WOMEX message, because I'm happy to share it around. And I hope everybody else here in the session can take a look or support and promote this compilation in whatever way possible by buying or via your DJ sets, social media, and everything. So yeah, or maybe you can also like show the pictures of all the artists included in there, as I also put them all online to show a bit the artists who all helped being part of this, whether from Africa, whether based in Europe, whether based in Latin America or the Caribbean. And it's like an array of groups in there, even like on the left-hand corner, but up there was like before Dave Watts, who's also part of the Global Club Music Network, which is also, he's often always present at WOMEX and part of the same collective that I'm also in, which is the Global Club Music Network. In there also, it's always like a way of sharing electronic sounds in general. But with this compilation, it was really just really the focus on let's say electronic contemporary music made by Black or Afro descendant artists, or also groups that were mixed as well, depending on the country that they're based in. And so yeah, these.
May we just super briefly interrupt you, because we're getting like a few questions also. People are requesting in the chat to concentrate on future plans. Can I just suggest also we keep the not go too much into detail, and also that Cornelia and Lewis have time to present before we open up to Q&A. Maybe we can have some of you prepared later also in the open session part. Is that possible?
Yeah, that's true. So I mean, in a way, this session is also like the way to go forward for about future plans, to make connections together, to share our ideas, and to see ways of working. You know, like I mean, in that sense, the systems of the global music scene are changing step by step into a different direction that links artists' careers, but to the wider scope of a social community. So I do feel that it's a lifeline into a post-COVID world, and whenever that moment will arrive, and we need to hear in a way like share all those experiences, and which is also what Cornelia and Louis will do in their ways of working. But I do feel that like taking up social activism, like actions that have to do with local communities or a good cause, is a very good way to move things forward, in the way of that it's not just about your own outputs, but it's a wider scope. You know, I really think we have to make that shift, because it's already been often that labels are working in their own little corners, which is really good. But I feel that collaborations are more needed, and wider scopes are needed, because I really think that like artists and labels and also audiences are in need of that, needing to have music with context, music like music with like a very deep message, and all those things, because in the end, like a music with a message works like a burning torch, and when people are more needed in more like in need of a justified cause, sort of a strong message, whether outspoken or by context, goes much deeper, and is actually the thing what people are most touched by and will want to support. So work on releasing genuine music, engage and create dialogue through releases that carry a special message and motivation to your audiences. If there was any time to put emphasis on this, I really think it's now more than ever. And that's the way with Rebel Up that we're going to move forward with all our future projects, linking up on that, more collaborations that we already were doing, but also focusing a lot on like local communities that we are here with Brussels, with the migrants and expat communities, and as well as communities of different backgrounds, to make that work. Because as everybody will know, the focus is getting more and more on local scenes wherever you live, and I think that's also a good step forward, that we don't always have to look what is far away, but getting more up close to the issues that are happening in your own town, city, or country. So with this, I actually want to give the torch over now to Cornelia, who's also going to talk about some ideas of maybe different ways of streaming platforms, or ideas how to share musical content digitally. So yeah, Cornelia.
Hello, everybody. Very nice to be here. Thank you, Sebastian. I knew you have been doing a lot, but this is like insane what you have did. So thank you for sharing. And I would like to tell you one thing. I hope I will not put too much confusion to this panel. First of all, Ladies on Records is not a label, but I will talk about it in a second so you understand my point of view. Let me share the screen right now to tell you the story, how Ladies on Records exists, and actually where does it go in the terms of COVID and the situation that pandemic put us in. So as I mentioned, Ladies on Records is not a label. So thank you for inviting me for this panel, but I would like to tell you that there is another way of creating and delivering music to the audience, international audience, than only a label. Because Ladies on Records is a curatorial venture. It's based on the storytelling and digging deep into the music, understanding the role of women in the music sector, and trying to bring as much information and deliver the jewels from the back catalogs of the labels. So actually, I'm working with labels in order to create a new content. My work is mostly based on the kind of music archaeology that is based on the diving into the catalogs of labels, archives. It's as I mentioned before, it's also connected to storytelling, because music is the window to understand the culture. That's why through telling and touching the stories of female singers from all around the world, I'm trying to bring the something that is behind the music, which is also history, politics, and social issues. My field of exploration until now, it has been mostly physical reality, musical reality. They were mostly working with master tapes, vinyl, data, and also digital content. So I was mostly diving in the record labels, archives, and libraries. This, as you can see, these all realities are extremely physical. I really was there. I was touching the things all the time and talking independently or like in collaboration with partners to real reality of music. So the outcomes of this approach of Ladies on Records, not the label, but this curatorial venture, were compilations, music compilations that were bringing the music to the local music to the very, very international, worldwide music, vintage global music listeners. One of them is Uzeli Psychedelic Anadolu that I created diving into the back catalog of one of old Turkish labels. And Turkish Ladies, which is the compilation that I created with Sony Music Turkey, which is the major label. But the Sony Music Turkey had an umbrella, like the like a licensing umbrella over other old Turkish labels. So this compilation was totally devoted to presentation of female singers from Turkey from 60s, 70s, and 80s. Other stuff that I did and still do are curated mixtapes. This type of my activity was strictly connected to diving into libraries and diving into the archives. And they were created with collaboration with institutions mostly. Vinyl sessions and parties, this is all that is actually connected to the challenges of 2020, because as I mentioned, my activity as a not a label was very physical. Digging in the physical archives was my most important reality. Travel, research, and meetings were also the base of everything that I have been doing so far, and working with analog material. So all this stuff came kind of in the new reality that we are facing right now, became kind of irrelevant. And but this put me in the position of new responsibilities and also of new chances. And I believe that the fact that I'm not a label, but I am in between the label reality and the listener's reality, I can also maybe give you some hints how to deal with the situation of a new reality that we live now. This new order brings more attention to the digital compilations. As I mentioned before, I was mostly focused on the analog reality. I was releasing music mostly on vinyl, and digital content was not that much important for me. It has changed since the situation we are living right now is putting us more indoors and keeping us far away from travel and real exploration. The digital compilation and this idea of making something like a unique anthology in the internet is something that is like very important for me and essential for my future works. What I try to do in this forthcoming months, and which is actually the outcome of pandemics, is to create the analog experience in the digital music, to bring the most profound and deep musical experience that we used to have with a vinyl musical experience and bring it to the digital reality. I call it a kind of democratization of experience, musical experience, because I believe that still vinyl is not a cheap product, while the digital music has give access to music to all around the world, to people from all around the world. So, and much easier and much cheaper. I believe it can give us a chance to explore music deeper and better, with best created liner notes, stories, and unique artwork, with the usage of digital tools, of course, and intensive way of communication between the customers. But one of the most important things that Ladies on Records is focused on is the social responsibility. It has been always the most important thing for me to bring gender balance and to put some more light into the context of women in music business. Has been always a social project, but this time, in the pandemic's time, it seems like we cannot get we have to be closer to those issues or to those problems of the society right now. So Ladies on Records nowadays work very, very strongly with women empowerment and very current issues, like, for example, Istanbul Convention and the violence against women and feminicides. All those issues that are so valid and so current right now. The same with gender equality. I would like to give you the insights of one of the projects that I'm working on right now, the concept of Istanbul Convention. The idea of working with this topic is strictly connected to the belief that Ladies on Records has to represent the women and their right to freedom, to equal opportunities, and first of all, to protect women. So I decided to work with a Turkish organization, women organization, in order to bring attention to the concept of not allowing the governments to quit the Istanbul Convention that protects women from violence, domestic violence and violence in general. That's why I'm creating projects that will call for they are like a call for action for women in Turkey and around the world. And I use the lyrics of the songs and the powerful songs from the Turkish music in order to bring awareness and help women to speak up about their will of finding freedom and finding equality. So it's about supporting women organizations in Turkey, and this is, for example, one of the elements of the activities I'm telling you about. The total income of sales of those t-shirts based on this sign means yeter artık, which is that's enough, and it's the title of one of a very popular Turkish song of Melika Demirel. All the income from this from sales of these t-shirts will be delivered to the women's shelters in Turkey. And the problem of violence against women in Turkey is super huge. So this is really, really important situation right now. In general, women empowerment, I don't know if I mentioned, but I'm Polish originally, but I live in Turkey. And you might have heard that the situation in Poland got a little bit extremely difficult right now because the radical government just banned the abortion. So another project is to support women and give them power and give them opportunity to speak up. And again, I'm using music because the music and the creativity of women is the field I'm trying to express all those issues. I'm trying to bring the attention to this topic through the song again, for one song of one of a very famous Polish female singer, Halina Frąckowiak, with her song Idę dalej. And again, I'm going to support the organizations in Poland. So music empowerment and storytelling and messaging equality became like kind of the most important issues in this time. As I mentioned before, I couldn't continue my active way of exploration of music in the archives and meeting the labels, etc. But it put me in the position that I came closer and closer to the context of social issues. And I believe it's a good moment, and it's like we all should be aware of these situations and help each other and collaborate outside of music. I believe music record labels and labels should get out of their box. We are not only delivering music, we are delivering culture. We are delivering a change, a social change. So I believe this is the new way of existing in the music business, even though I'm not a label. So yeah, I think that's it from me. I would be very happy to answer any questions when it's needed. Thank you.
Cool. Thank you, Cornelia and Seb. Hello, everyone. Hope everyone's doing well. Yeah, so I'm just going to talk a little. I realize the title of my project makes me sound a bit like a free market capitalist in terms of turning a negative into a positive, opportunities in a pandemic, but it's more about kind of using this time that we've all had now. I mean, it feels like this year is never going to end. The summer is kind of, it's almost infinite time, as someone said to me the other day, but kind of using this time to sort of prepare and structure and research. So yeah, I have a label called Mais. We've been going for 10 years. A few of our artists have done WOMEX showcases. Donna Netch did one last year. We've released a lot of music from Brazil, South America, but recently, kind of looking into other parts of the world. But you can go to the website, MyZoom Discos, or just Google MyZoom and MAISUM. You see it all there. But yeah, so this year we had a 6-week tour for one of our bands planned across Europe. It was like the dream tour we've been kind of working for, playing loads of big festivals, and would have really, this is for Minyo Crusaders, a band from Japan, would have really brought them to the next level. But obviously it got cancelled. No tours, no festivals, nothing this summer. And in a kind of bad way, sorry, I've just got my son shouting at me through the window here, which is like one of the, you know, eternal problems of working from home. But yeah, it's been our busiest year ever on Bandcamp, which is crazy. We've only released 2 records this year. I don't know if you've got a record label and you're not on Bandcamp, you're crazy. Everyone needs to be on Bandcamp. It's a platform for selling your music direct to your fans. So rather than going through shops, you sell it direct to people. And we've been on Bandcamp for 8 years, from 2012 to this year, 2020. And even having only released 2 records this year, we made kind of half, for the whole 8 years on Bandcamp, half of the money I've made has been from this year. And obviously, the more money I make, the more I can pay my artists. So it's kind of, it's a win-win for everyone. So yeah, really, and I think especially Bandcamp this year, because record shops were closed. Well, in the UK, record shops were closed for 2 or 3 months, and because people weren't going to shows, it felt like people wanted to support the artists by buying their records. And the best way to do that, in order to ensure the artist gets the most money, is to buy it from the label direct, or I guess if the artist has a label, buy it from them, but buy it from the label direct. And then, you know, that money gets passed on to the artist. So, yeah, I mean, to give you a rough idea, if you buy a record from a shop, it's about, the label gets like 30-40% of the price you pay. But obviously, if you buy it from Bandcamp, it's like closer to 80-85%. So, yeah, and with Bandcamp as well, you can kind of send messages to your fans, because we've been going for almost 8-9 years on Bandcamp. We've got about 3,000 people who follow us, and you can message them directly, like, this is our new record, blah, blah, blah. And we've been doing special offers over the summer, putting records together, doing discounts. You can kind of not have fun with it because it's just a selling platform, but you can kind of try and be a bit creative. And, you know, we had like quite a lot of, in the basement, there's quite a few CDs that have been there for a while. And I was like, look, it's just 50p. You can't give things for free on Bandcamp. 50p is the minimum. We were just giving away CDs 50p. People still like CDs now. It's still music. You rip it, put it in your laptop, whatever. So yeah, we've been doing like stickers as well. I had some stickers here. 3 stickers with records. Everyone loves stickers, right? Yeah, see, Seb knows that. You know, writing little notes in the records, we send them out to people. Thanks for your support. Yeah, and also there's been a lot of delays in manufacturing this year because of the pandemic. You know, people have had to wait like 2 to 3 months sometimes for their records. But I'm emailing people, explaining the situation, and everyone's chill. Everyone's kind of like, it's fine. This year's never going to end. If I get my record in 3 months, I'm okay. And it's been good having that kind of direct communication with the fans, people buying the records. You know, it's kind of, it definitely feels like this year we've kind of created more of a sort of a community, I guess, around the records and the artists. So yeah, that was my main point. Get onto Bandcamp and use Bandcamp and really push it. And yeah, I suppose the other thing I've learned this year, not learned, but having had all this time, this infinite time, I've been able to sort of delve into, you know, I don't know, as I run a label, you know, I get emails from people, or I see records I like, or I hear things, and I kind of put these in like an email folder, and it just builds up and up and up. And there's like a million emails in there of things I need to listen to. And this summer I've been able to listen, to go through stuff and contact artists and, you know, say, I like what you're doing, what are your plans? And it's good. Like, we've kind of done the prep this year for next year. And, you know, assuming the world doesn't end or anything, we're going to have quite a good release schedule, hopefully. So yeah, I've used this time to kind of listen, research, you know, even emailing artists who I was talking to a year ago and who said, no, I've got a record plan. Everything's obviously since the pandemic, everyone's plans have fallen apart. So there's a couple of artists we're now talking to about possibly working with who we weren't 12 months ago. So there's been some kind of opportunities. And obviously the other thing is, obviously I run this label, but it's not my main, gig. I've got a few other side hustles I do to bring the money in. But because I've been working from home more and traveling less, I'm spending less money. So I can, which that means I need to work less, so I can spend more time on the label, kind of working on that. And I think that's it. Yeah. If anyone's got any questions or anything, send them over the chat. Yeah.
Okay, well, great. Thank you so much. The three of you, Seb, Cornelia, and Lewis, amazing. We already got a few really interesting questions up in the chat. I just quickly wanted to explain. Please raise your hand, click on the blue raise hand button, or just, put it in the chat. You can, because now would be the Q&A part. We don't have that much time left, 15 minutes, but it would be really nice to see more faces here on stage, so to say. Don't be shy. It would just be like a nicer feeling for everyone to join. So yeah, either just raise the hand, come in here, we promote you over to the stage, or we just read out what we found in the chat. Anku, I don't know if you pronounce your name correctly. You've been quite active. Would you, should I just read out your question maybe, and you can decide if you want to join us? Because Seb, I think you saw the question. Maybe you take it.
I saw the question. And hi, Ankur. Really nice to see you here. Ankur is also doing amazing stuff with his label Amaras Records, where he focuses on the Indian communities in India with traditional and contemporary music. It's really amazing. Yeah, as like to answer that question, for me, like actually every album has a different context. I mean, the first thing I can definitely say, I think of all the albums that have been produced, only one of them has been made through a subsidy, and that was like the album of Mais with Moroccan Brass that I showed before, but that was actually from their side. Me at Rebel Up, I so far have not received any subsidies. I have applied for them, so now I'm waiting if I'm gonna get them, and I really hope so, because that would be good for the coming year to focus on local projects. That would be like a Belgian subsidy, so meaning I would mostly have to work with Belgian artists or artists based here in Belgium. But that's I really think in these times that's not a limitation. That is really the chance to do. And other than that, some other albums have been also done with the musicians themselves, investing money in it, or also themselves or organizing a crowdfunding. So like doing a fundraiser via Ulule or Kickstarter or anyway. And I've also seen in the last few months that those crowdfunding campaigns maybe are going really well, because as people are going out less, as Louis was saying, people go less to shows. People actually have more money to spend on supporting artists, and that way people want to help the artists, the labels, to make a project happen. If you can buy a record for 15 or 20 euros, yeah, you'll do it, because you won't be able to see this band very soon. Maybe not in a year or 2 years or so. So in that sense, I think to gather funds, I really think that crowdfunding is a way to go. And I'm also going to focus more on that, because I don't necessarily want to be dependent on subsidies either. Subsidies are a good way to work, especially for doing residencies and other things. And maybe making like repetitions and other rents. But like for the production of the album, I think a crowdfunding is the best way. But I think also that all of us, I think anybody who has a label will focus more and more on crowdfunding. If there is money to be looked for, because if there's less tours of bands going on, there's less money coming in anyway, so you have to get it from somewhere. And that also then depends if the audience, or at least your fans and followers, will want to support you, which often is the case. They will. So that's also what I think as well for your label, for Amaras. Yeah, do crowdfunding campaigns, because you'll be surprised how much people would support that, me included. So yeah.
Thank you, Seb. I actually found there was a question directed at Cornelia. The question was, how do you go about licensing from the older labels? What are the economics, and how is it funded?
Very good question. Actually, the licensing and the copyrights, especially in Turkey, but I reckon it's a bigger issue, global issue. It's a pool of problems. So one of the things that I find interesting in my work is that I go directly to the labels whose licensing all the rights are just belonging to them. So this is clear. In most cases, label owns the rights, and I give my curatorial impact to the process. So I don't have to deal particularly with finding the copyrights and paying and everything. This is really comfortable. However, in the countries like Turkey, it's really complicated because very often the label who claims owns the rights doesn't own it fully, or there are also 4 other labels, old labels, that own the rights to the same album. So this is pretty confusing. I think that copyrights are one of the most difficult issues in the releasing process of old music. And many labels deal with it in a particular way. Like, for example, they go directly to the artist and release the music like outside of the system. I don't do it because I work directly with the labels. And also, I believe I also had a label. I was a label manager, and I believe that the label puts a lot of effort in the creation of the album. We both, 3 of us, we know how much it takes to create an album. So I also respect this right from my own personal point of view. I want to go to the label. And whenever I have an option, I choose this way to talk to the owner of the rights. So this is complicated but doable. And I'm still like, I'm trying to approach different labels to start working with them and get the license and work with them. So this is also like a call for if there is anybody here in this Zoom meeting that would like to cooperate, work with Ladies on Records, and create a beautiful, unique anthology of their back catalog, I'm here. I would be happy to cooperate.
I think we're all looking here for good connections with people, like collaborations in any way possible, whether that's about an album or series and things. I really think that's needed because, you know, if people, I think it's nowadays way harder for labels to invest everything themselves. I think it's better if there's different shares of the various labels coming in, that the money gets spread around, and also like that the product, like the project gets carried by more hands, you know. I mean, I think we have to be creative in that way, and also as like rights go, I do wonder, actually, that's maybe a question to you, Cornelia. Do you feel that now in the COVID era, that like people who maybe were before more harder or more playing hardball on like the licensing rights are maybe now easier as people are more in need of money?
Oh, it's a very, very difficult question. For example, in Turkey, the situation is dramatic because Turkey is going through severe crisis, economical crisis. Recent months, just, you know, the lira, the currency, just dropped down dramatically. So the costs of anything are like insanely high. So a lot of labels really don't want to invest anything, especially in the analog, in creating vinyls. I mean, if anything that is brought to Turkey and they need to pay in euro, it's insanely expensive. So I think for Turkey, it's more and more difficult in licensing and creating something new. But I don't know. I mean, I believe the digital compilations that I was mentioning in my presentation, this is the very beautiful opening for delivering music in the very deep, profound way, but still not using money on the production phase, right? And I believe that this might be a beautiful opportunities for the labels to create something astonishing.
Yeah, it has to. I mean, I've already heard some messages out of different countries, from Africa to South America, that like artists, when there is interest for releasing something that is from, let's say, 70s, 80s or something, that those things can happen much more as long as the money gets paid more quickly upfront. That, I mean, I'm not really into the reissuing business, although I'm working on a project now with Peru, with indigenous chicha cumbia from the 80s, and that has a bit like a social economical viewpoint of that project as well, talking about social political songs made in that era, that to escape a bit like the typical vibe of cumbia, that is only love songs, because there also were songs that were not about that. But like, what I've heard now from the signals from Peru is that people are really in need of money, and many musicians who actually still perform are having no gigs, so everybody's getting desperate. So even now, like, even musicians who hold the rights to their music are actually very quick to sell them off, which might also create a concern in a way as well, I guess. I mean, I don't know if it's taken up by labels who maybe are not too ethical about it, you know.
Yeah, it
So
depends. I mean, I would say let's not talk about ethics in the label business, because it's very particular situation, and very often old labels are judged by our modern ways of thinking, that they were not ethical, etc. The world of music was absolutely different in 60s, 70s, 80s. Now the world of music is different, and also nowadays there are a lot of not proper delivered actions in the music business by labels. So I would say let's not go into ethics right now. This is a different topic. But as you mentioned, I think it might be easier right now to license something directly from the artist. But as I say, it's not
if they have the
necessary.
rights, yeah,
It's not necessarily the legal one. You know, this is something that we should take into
yeah.
consideration. We have a lot of very interesting questions in the chat. How shall we? I see. I just have it, and like, how shall we
Can
carry
we
them?
either you
So many questions.
one of you? We also, I mean, the last one that came from Jacob was kind of devil's advocate question. Why should an artist work with a record label these days? That's a really general question. Maybe we want
True.
to.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, if I would even go as far to say that if an artist has a really good management, like a management team behind it that does all their social media, their digital press and whatever, I think for those kind of artists, a label is not necessarily needed anymore, for instance. But I do think that a lot of artists do like sort of autonomy, don't want to have managers deciding everything for them. And maybe for those artists, a label is still a good home, you know? And also to be part of a family or part of a scene, because people seem to forget in these days, when everything has to go on Spotify and whatever, and you can make a hit with like a simple single and whatever, that the labels are almost not any more important with that. But at least with labels, you create a community of audience, community of listeners, and a community of let's say scenes in general, you know. And nowadays I have the feeling the last 5 years or so that there is less attention on that let's say the community idea of a label is not taken as much up anymore by the press or by the general public, because yeah, I don't know, as everybody from now on can upload their music via digital distributors and everything. Yeah, why would you need a label? It's true, if you want to do all the work yourself, you can. If you have managers behind you, you can. That depends all on your business setup. But I mean, I started the label actually to become like a community and a platform for people who want to be all together, you know. And that's also how I actually buy my music as well, from labels who do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think this is
I don't know
very
if Luis
important
has
what you
anything to
said.
say, or Cornelia.
Um,
That's what it is, because I think like the added economical value maybe of a label is perhaps less, but I would say it's maybe more the community value that is really big, that labels. That's actually the key that labels still have, because economically it's a different story now since streaming media.
I guess it's. I mean, the if you look historically at a label, it's there to market the record, isn't it? Like that is when you go back in time,
Yeah.
the label would market the record, and that's when I take on a record. I'm always thinking, can I get an audience for this? Because you don't want to take an artist's record, put it out there, and then it doesn't sell anything. There's no, because then you know what I mean, then it's bad for the artist. So I prefer to try and take records, obviously, that I love musically, but at the same time, I'm thinking, is this going to hit with a certain audience? Or, and you know, other press. I mean, now we're getting more and more people on Bandcamp. It's kind of cool because we can be a bit less reliant on the press now. If we get our own community and our own network of fans, then we have a new release, put it out there. If 1,000 people buy it on Bandcamp, that's the job done, isn't it? I mean, but at the same time, you kind of, if I'm looking after someone's record, you know, they put a lot into it, and I'm going to put a lot into it to try and get it out there to connect with the right people. So I'm not sure if that answers the question. I kind of think I went a bit. It's just, I don't know. It's someone asked, you know, it's not easy to start your own label, is it? It's like, there are easier ways to make money, definitely. It's like super risky, especially when you're making loads of records or CDs or spending money on promo companies or, so it's risky. But at the same time, you know, there are people out there who want to hear new music, no? Thank God. So.
Yeah, I think like coming back to the question of Marin Jursic, as Marin says, like, does it make perfect sense to start a label? I would always say, yeah, it always makes sense to start a label. I mean, it has to make sense for yourself and for the artist that you want to release. If it doesn't, if there's something wrong in that equation, I would say don't start a label. But if you just want to do it and you feel you want to represent artists and make a community and put music out for an audience, do it, you know, and start small. Start maybe only with digital releases. And if you want to do things on vinyl, like do with fundraisers or crowdfunding, or try to look for government subsidies if they exist in your country.
Yeah, you can definitely do digital now, because a lot of the radio DJs I'm sending stuff to, they won't take CDs anymore because they're not going into the office. So everyone's doing it from home. So I think now you can definitely do digital releases. You know, if the music is that good, people will play it digitally. It's not, you don't need to have a physical product.
I would like to add something as not a label person. I think it's a very good time to start a label, especially the label with a mission. The label that, because we live in the times of messages, of important changing situations and changing messages. We should follow our instinct about the things that we want to change in the world. And the label, if I, at this moment, if I had money to start a label, I would start it. Because I believe this is the best time to really influence the world with the music and with our activities. So this is my message as a person who doesn't have a label.
Oh, thank you, Cornelia. I think these are the perfect final words to end this session, because we're running out of time. But yeah, as Seb said, please continue this conversation. Camila put out a few links how you can do that. And also, yeah, thanks again to our 3 speakers here today for all the insights. Sorry we couldn't answer all the questions, but yeah, keep up the conversation. And yeah, if you move over to continue the conversation, don't forget about the rest of our program. There are still conferences running today. There's also the Global Latinos Network meeting later on. And yeah, I think Camila will also place the link for the showcases coming up tonight, last night of showcases. So again, thanks for everybody. Thanks for everyone attending. We had like really nice, big number of attendees in here. And enjoy the rest of this digital WOMEX.
Thank you everybody for joining, and see you in the virtual chat.
Thank you very much.
We'll ask some more questions. It would be great to do some more questions that I see that we didn't answer yet. So plenty of stuff.
Thank you so much. I need to run. Enjoy.